take money for food before the division, okay, I'll know him at least on the detriment of the. Where did you start? From the Mishnah on Kufamet test. Kufamet test. Yes, the Mishnah. Okay, I'll start again. You see it?
Might have finished
One of
yesterday, a
the
little bit
any
earlier.
one I'll say. But we stopped really.
Oh, I
on
didn't.
the-
I
on the
didn't. I
other
didn't go to the
Mishnah.
Mishnah yesterday.
We
Oh,
stopped
you're
at the
right.
Mishnah
You know, you're right.
138.
You're right. You're right. You're right. Oh, your Mishnah. Go to Kuf Lameches. You're right. Go to Kuf Lameches on the day. You're right. You're right. You're right. Okay. I'm totally the Mishnah. The Mishnah of. So now we're talking about still. When a man gives a gift to a kid, and he says it's yours from now and after death. That means what? So he keeps the usufruct, the father. He wants to keep making money off the land, and the land transfers to the kid, including including everything, the rights of usufruct after he dies. So he says, Av Tolish, when the father gave a gift that way, okay, he takes the produce and he gives it there he wants. He knows it's not just for himself, whatever the produce is. While he's alive. Okay, and let's say he dies and this fruit that he's harvested, that goes to all. No, let's say he gave a field to one son. He wants to give him more than the other people. He gave a field to one son now, and when he dies, so he said to that son, the land is yours now, and the total transfer will be after I die, and I get the use of it. No, all the time in his lifetime, he takes the use of it, whatever he wants for himself or others, takes the fruit. Let's say he died and he left produce that was picked, that was harvested. Well, that's his. So who does it go to when he dies? It has to be shared equally amongst all the children and doesn't go back, let's say, to the one child whose field it was. Because that was no longer connected to the field. That's part of the inheritance, goes to all of the.
What if the left produce was already that was still attached to the tree?
Oh, so now that's what we're going to say. So the produce that was still attached, we're going to see now. It goes to the person we gave the field to. We don't say that since it's going to be picked, it's like it was picked already. But there's a debate why that's true. But it's true. Okay, we'll see in a second. It's true that if we left it unharvested, we'll consider it like the ground, and it goes to the kid who we gave the ground to. It says the Gemara. You told me what talush. Okay, and you told me what. Oh, the part that was already harvested and the father dies, that goes to all of the inheritors, and not just to the kid who owned the field. Mechubar, but if he left it connected. Lo, you're going to tell me what? That doesn't go to everybody, it only goes to the kid? Okay, so the Gemara says, well, Tanya, didn't we learn in a Brisa? Not so. We learned in a Brisa that if a person said, I'm giving this field to you today and after I die, and in the meantime, the son sold the field while the father was alive. So what do you do? Okay, so then the buyer has to evaluate the produce that's connected to the field and has to pay it back to the kid. Okay, because it's true that when the father died, the kid sold the field. The father gave the field the kid now after he dies. So the kid owns the property, and the father owns the usufruct, and everything transfers to the kid. The kid needs money in the lifetime of the father. He sells it to somebody, so somebody's not going to get it until the father dies. But when the father dies, we learn that the fruit that's connected to the ground, the buyer has to pay back to what? To the kid who sold it to him. Okay,
he doesn't pay it back to the heirs. Just
no. The father gave this kid the field now in his lifetime. Yeah. So now, but here, what's the main point? If the buyer has to pay the kid for the produce that's connected to the field, you see the produce connected to the field is considered what? It's considered the ground. Yet a minute ago you told me that the produce that was that's considered what? That's considered to the. Pardon me. That's not considered connected to the ground, because even though the kid sold the ground to the buyer, the produce that was connected to the ground, the buyer has to reimburse the kid for when the father died. So you see that what's connected to the ground is not the ground. You told me a minute ago that what's connected to the ground is the ground. When the father left produce on the field that was connected, you gave it to the kid who had the field, not to all the heirs. Amarula lo kasha. Don't worry, the contradiction is not one that we cannot solve. Khan, okay, in our Mishnah, when we said what, it goes back to the kid who owned the field, when it was connected. Don't worry, he says, that's not because we're saying that the produce necessarily is the ground. Okay, but rather what? We're going to see in a second, that's a special relationship between a father and the son. Okay, and therefore what? And therefore what? Okay, and Khan, when we said that the produce is not considered part of the ground, but Acher, it's by a different person, it has nothing to do with the father. The father didn't give it to the other person, nor did the kid want to sell it to him. Because a person is more inclined to his son than to a stranger. It's quite possible we say, really, what? That the produce connected to the ground is also not the ground. But over here, where the father said, I'm giving it to you now and after I die, he wants to favor this son. So even if I'll say that in general, the produce for other people won't be considered connected to the ground, this father is going to consider it connected to the ground because he's favoring this son. Now says the Mishnah, now to the Mishnah that I thought we were supposed to start with.
Starting all over again.
Over again, yeah. A guy left children who are grown and not grown. And I told you, grown children spend more money on clothing, and young and little kids spend more money on food. So nobody's supposed to partake of the. So you can't say, well, look, oh, don't worry. Here, we'll all until we split, we'll support ourselves. It's not going to work. You know why? Because if the grown kids and the little kids try and support themselves in the estate, they're going to be cheating each other because they're not the grown kids are going to be taking more than the share of the little kids for clothing, and the little kids are going to be taking more than the share of the big kids for food, and they're going to be stealing. They're going to be cheating each other. So if you left large and small kids, okay, the big ones can't take clothing from the estate, which will cheat the little kids. Okay, it'll be on their back. But Lord Tanim, and the kids can't support themselves with food, I'll ignore them in a way that's going to be unfair to the big ones because they take more money. Ella, what do you have to do? You don't take anything. Cholkim b'shava, they have to divide it up properly, equally, and then everybody will support themselves from their portion. Nasr Gdolim, let's say the big kids didn't do the right thing. They decided to get married, the grown kids, and they took money from the estate in order to get married. Therefore, what Yisok Tanim. So also, what then the small kids say, listen, hey, we're also going to marry our wives from the estate, and either they're going to get married now and take it back, or you know what, we're going to make an evaluation and separate money from the estate to their favor, so that they can be paid back when they get married. The Tanim, but if this is the case I told you, let's say the big kids were married in the lifetime of the father, and the father paid for it. That's very common. He says, V'im amrak tanim, and if the little kids who are heirs say now, hey, we want to get married, the same way you got married from our father's estate when he was alive, we want to get married from the estate after he's dead. Okay, and Shomin, we don't listen to them. They have no rights to that money. That's money the father gave away in his lifetime. Whatever the father gave in his lifetime to these grown boys, tough luck. Hey, that's what he gave away. That's his business. And in general, you should know it's not my Rebbe of blessed memory has said that it's true. You're not supposed to cause jealousy among your children and show favoritism, but you don't give every kid the same thing. They don't need the same things. It's just not true. It's silly. It's a very primitive thinking. You think every kid needs exactly the same. Some kids are sensitive, they need more affection, and some kids don't need so much affection, and some kids need more money than the other kids. Everybody needs different things. You can't do things in a way that causes jealousy, but not everybody has the same needs. Some kids are more.
Is it possible that the father does have a favorite son, which he should?
Anything can happen. Anything can happen. We know that those things happen. But I'm putting out that I'm saying even when you're let's say you're a good even-handed parent, but not everybody needs the same thing. It's not true. They don't. Not every. They really don't. And some kids really need more of something than other kids do. And you have to think. And people need more. And that's why I told you it's never your business how other people spend their money. It's true that a person who has less money than you may spend extravagantly in a certain area, and you're thinking, my goodness, I don't even know if I would spend that money. You have much more money. It's none of your business. That person, they have needs. You said the person needs more. Their kids need more. But their wife is very sad. That's none of your business. Everybody has to. You don't know what people need. Okay, and people don't need the same thing. One person, this stuff is meaningless to them. You're right, but for this person, it means everything. And you have to be sensitive to other people, and also the children. You have to see that my Rebbe yelled, it's not the same. Yeah.
Suppose someone spends all his money while he has it, and then becomes destitute. Are you mechuyev to support him?
So we're gonna come to it. Actually, maybe soon. I don't think we had it yet. I think we're gonna be coming to it. We might have. But anyway, the story's like this. It depends. In general, It's not our business. If we see there's a thing called there's a time when a person has money but can't get to it. So, for example, it's called Asher Shalom Makoma. Today, today everything's digital, but in the old days, the person might have had like,
But I'm talking about when he has money,
yes,
and he
yes, yes,
spends it
yes,
all.
yes, I know. So I'm trying to say to you, so that I don't know that we're going to penalize the person. I don't know that we're going to penalize the person, but when the person has money but can't get to it, we usually let them take money from charity, okay? Because that at this moment, it's called Asher Shalom Makoma. He's rich, but he can't get
Right,
to his
it's not
money.
available
Yeah,
to him
yeah.
now.
So we have to feed him from the charity, and we have a similar case. You might remember. I don't know if I learned it with you, but you must have learned it before me. That there's a case where a person has a piece of property, and they need money, but this is really the wrong time to sell. It's the wrong season. If they'll wait 6 months, they'll get the proper money. And if we make him, and it's true, if he sells it, he'll get money. He's going to get a really lousy price for his property, but he'll support himself. So he's begging us, says, don't let me sell, let me get, support me. Support me so that I can. So according to some Rishon, yes, we support him because he can't get to his money. He has enough money to live right now, but we don't want to. We're not going to force him to sell his property he'll speak at a lousy price. He's also like a person who has money but can't get to it. But if this person was foolish enough to let people know that he needs money, and needs money, and the reason he's getting lowballed is because everybody knows he's under pressure. Everybody gives you a low price when they know you need money. Then, according to certain Rishonim, we don't support him. No, if he's an idiot, we don't support him. A person who got stuck, he had bad luck. Huh? Yeah, a guy had bad luck. We support him. A guy was an idiot, you understand, and was a fool and squandered his, and was stupid enough to let people know that he needs cash, and that's why he's getting lowball. We're not going to pay for it. He said he should have shut his mouth. But that's a little different than the case you're asking, where the person just spent his money and now doesn't have any. I don't know that. We have to look. You said, but I don't know. I don't know that we're going to penalize the guy, even according to those we showed. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure. We'll look, but I don't know that we do. Okay. So furthermore, a similar thing. Okay. With the girl. Okay, right. Like I told you. So nobody can complain about what the father gave away in his lifetime. It's none of your business. Okay. Furthermore, he the guy doesn't have sons. His daughters are going to inherit his property. Okay. And he has grown daughters and small daughters. And adults, misparnasos, the grown daughters, again, same rule. Same thing we learned before. They can't clothe themselves from the estate, i.e. the actanos, okay, assuming that what? Well, the young ones are also going to get clothing because the young ones spend much less money on clothing than the big. The actanos and these onos, and there goes, and we can't feed the little ones saying, "What? Oh, the big ones will also get fed from the estate," because it's not fair because the little kids take more. Ella, but rather what? You don't support anybody from the estate before the division. Ella cholkos b'shava, all the girls, we divide them equally what they're supposed to get, and then they support themselves from their portion. Again, Yisuk Tanos, okay, if the pardon me, in Nisag Dolos, if the big ones took money from the estate before the division to get married, Isvaktanos also what? Also the little ones have a right to marry from the estate, either literally marry and take the money now, or just putting the money to the side and waiting for later. Be'im amru aktanos hari ananosos. But if the young girls say, listen, to the older daughters who married in the lifetime of the father, they said, we're going to get married. We want a stipend from the estate. We want an apportionment from the estate to get married, just like you got married in the father's lifetime. Ain't showing them. We don't listen to them. It's none of their business. Okay, because why? The father gave it to them in the lifetime. That's not whatever the father gave away in the lifetime has nothing to do with the estate. I know fights like this. I saw it happen. The father gave big gifts, let's say, to a particular kid, and it happens particularly with daughters. The father gives big gifts to the daughter in his lifetime, and then the boy or the boys say, "Hey, a big portion of the estate was given away, but we want to be reimbursed. There's nothing doing, but that's not the estate. Probably gave away his lifetime. It's not. Has nothing to do. It's none of your business. It has nothing to do with the estate. That's what he wanted.
That is the father's finances changed. What he was able to do earlier, he can't do now.
It's still a problem, So good kids do good things, and we have to pray for have good, to have good relations. I told you one story that I love, and I know it's true, and it's counterintuitive. I told you the story already. There was a family in I think in South Africa, where as the mother aged, one daughter, as it happens, from all the kids, dead age, sat and she became her caretaker. She took care of her, dedicated herself. And unfortunately, as happens sometimes, the mother became, not well mentally. And she decided that the daughter who was taking care of her was the one she's going to cut out of her estate. And she went and made one of these ironclad wills. They videotape it and they show the person is sane. Oh yeah. She cut the daughter who sacrificed everything. She cut her out and gave all the money to the other kids. And when the mother passed away, the other kids took all the money and gave it to the daughter who took care of the mother.
Oh,
okay,
that's nice.
Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah,
I love the story because it's counterintuitive. You're not expecting the punchline, but that's the way it's supposed to be. Yeah.
It says using funds from the undivided estate.
Yes.
That's father has died.
Right. That's the whole point. Nobody's supposed to be taking anything from the undivided estate. That's the real point here. You're not supposed to do it. Why? Because the undivided, who said it's going to be tit for tat? You're supposed to divide the estate and then people do what they want. But we don't allow people to support themselves from the undivided estate for reasons because it's not going to be equal. It's not going to be equal. They're not going to take equal portions. So we first divide, and then everybody takes their portion, and then let them do what they want.
I remember in the Obamas, was turned out that the girl is going to, if it's a big estate, gets most of the estate. They have the whole thing of 1/10, 1/9, and 1/8.
Oh, hang on. Yeah, hang on. You're going to see a little bit today. You're going to see a little bit today.
Yeah. And it could create a lot of ill will. I know family. When the older daughter was married, the father was still alive, and he gave a big gift to the daughter.
Right.
Then he died, and the other daughters, when they were married, they didn't get such a big gift.
Right. It's a problem. On the other hand, what are you going to do?
Get the point because he died. Huh?
Yeah.
Using funds.
That's the first case. The second case is where the older one's married while the father was alive, and the daughters who weren't married in the father's life say, "Listen, we want to be reimbursed. We also want to get money,
but they don't get it.
They don't get it." But I want to point out, you're saying a very good point. But let's think out loud for a second. A person has to do. Nobody knows what's going to happen in life. Some people live longer. And sometimes the person's finances go up and down. Nobody knows. A person did what he did. He had money. He had money. He spent it. What's he going to do? So now is it his fault or the other daughter's fault or whoever could receive the gift? Is it their fault that let's say that the father didn't live as long as he thought, or the his finances changed? It's not their fault what they do. They did something wrong that they should lose out on the estate. Now but that's why I said to you though, listen, good kids are good kids. You understand? In cases where good siblings, if they see the other sibling has suffered, they would help them. That's why I said. But the problem is like this: good brothers and sisters are wonderful, and when it's not a good relationship, it's terrible.
Yeah.
That's really what I'm trying to tell you, Mr. Cooper. In other words, you're right. It didn't work out. So what would happen in a good, healthy, happy family relationship? The kids who benefited would say, "Hey, let's see if we can help out the kids who didn't benefit so much," and they'll share. But for whatever reason, if it's not such a good relationship, or sometimes who knows, maybe everybody's under duress and they don't even have the luxury of being gracious. It doesn't always happen. So, but that's why I hope you always want. My father may rest in peace. Kids share much more in common than children and parents, siblings, because siblings have the same genes and the parents don't. Kids are really much closer with each other than kids have much more in common with each other than they have with the parents. So my brother and I were always teamed up against my parents. So that was a norm. So we protected each other. And my father would scream. He says, this one lies and the other one swears to it. He says, this one lies, the other one swears to it. But he loved it. He would scream about it, but he loved it that his children were united against him. He liked it. Instead, he liked it. He screamed about it, but he liked it. He said, "What's the point?" Because we're here. So I'm saying, and hopefully you want. What do you want? You want to see your kids together. I beg people, and I do my best. That's the way it's supposed to be. So, and then it wouldn't matter so much. It wouldn't matter so much. Children who love each other. What do you mean? They'll take the shirt off their back and try and help each other. That's what you hope for. So, and that's why there's two things a person has to do. One, it's good for every person to arrange their affairs. So God forbid there won't be fights after they die to the degree that they can. And the other thing, you try your best to raise children who will be mentioned with each other. You understand? Because no contract in the world can do more than goodwill.
Yeah.
No contract or no law or lawyer or whatever you do can do more than good relations between people.
There's a
can do.
famous quote from in the Gemara,
Yeah.
the New Testament, where it says, "Nitzchuni banai nitzchuni." I remember saying,
Yeah,
"My children
beat me, yeah.
beat me in the
He also
halacha."
likes it. He laughed. He said he likes it. He also likes
Yeah,
it. That's right.
he said, "Yeah,
He also likes
they
it.
win because they follow the halacha."
And Hashem likes it. Hashem likes it. Okay. Now, one more point. Okay, so that point, well, all the two halachas were parallel, even though they're chidushim, but they're parallel. But so boys inheriting and girls inheriting had exactly the same rules vis-a-vis them towards each other. But there is a case that's more stringent when the daughters inherit than when the boys inherit. Shabanos nizonos alabanim. We're going to see when there's not so much money around, the girls, okay, who have a right to be supported until they grow, until they get married, etc. Until they grow, they will, as we'll see, they get the money at the expense of the boys. Okay, but young girls are not going to get, or young girls knows the young girls are the young girls are going to get supported at the expense of the boys, okay, when there were girls and boys. But the young girls are not going to get supported at the expense of the grown girls. So that's that. So it's more stringent. The law is more stringent when they're all girls. Amarava, okay, hi gadol achai. You say achai. If there was a bunch of brothers and one was the eldest, the lavash ve'achasi be'beisa, and he clothed himself and covered himself up with money from the estate. My David, if he did it, and what? And the other brothers cannot take it back. I says, what do you mean? How can he do that? Well, not. Didn't we learn in our Mishnah? Ain't a golem is piracy, and okay, Alaktana. We said what? That the big ones can't be supported with clothing at the expense of the small ones. He says, no, you make a mistake. He says, Masnisen. Okay, he says, okay. When we said that, what, that the grown ones can't take it. Bishir, this is either bishircha or bishidcha. Okay, it means when the person is not doing business, he's not doing anything. The person is just sitting idly. So then no big brother has the right to take anything. Okay. So what do you mean? Bishircha b'shid. When we talked about what? Okay, when we talked about the brother that gets the money, as we're going to see. Okay, he said b'shircha b'shita. He said when he's doing nothing, obviously doesn't get it. No, pardon me. So why does the brother who does business, the brother who gets a right to look good because they need him to look good to do his business? You understand? Everybody knows that. If you don't look the part, it's hard to make money sometimes. And sometimes people, a little bit of money, go into debt to look like they have money in order to do it. I know also real cases. You understand? I know one guy became very wealthy, by the way. He's always a good businessman, but he had he lands, so to speak, with nothing, and the guy made fortunes. He bought and sold patents, and these things. The first thing he did was he went into debt. He got himself a really nice clothing and really nice car, and then made a fortune because he had looked the part. I know here in Florida, it's very interesting. I was really surprised, by the way. I know family, they make a lot of money. And they're honest, but they make their money from very poor people. They make a lot, they not dishonestly, honestly. They benefit the poor people and they make a lot. But they represent the poor, and they make a lot of money. And they also always drive extremely expensive cars and clothing. I would have thought the opposite, but the poor people trust them. They're these people must be doing good. So they're honest people. They don't hurt the poor. They help the poor, but but they get a big cut of these claims that they're representing the poor people for. But I was surprised actually. But the people without money, they want to see that the person who's representing them is in the money.
And on the other hand,
Yeah.
I remember as a kid, there was a doctor in the neighborhood that when doctors made house calls, when he had two cars. One of it was this cataract when he drove around with his family. Another one was the beat up Chevy. When he made a house call, he used the beat up Chevy.
That's
So
interesting.
the patient, when he charged them, they wouldn't say, look what he's driving, the poor guy.
Yes, he must have found the psychology was different. You got to know your business. It's very interesting. My brother, he was ready, getting older, and he late teens, and he went out with a
There's an
girl.
older brother.
I have an older brother. Yeah. So he went out with a girl, apparently very wealthy girl. Everything's going good. And one day he comes home. I remember he was white. He was white. I said, "What happened?" He said he goes to pick up the girl. The father says, "Wait, I want to sit with you for a little bit." The father sits him down in the living room, and he takes out the girl's bills from the dentist and the orthodontist and all these things. And he puts them on the table. He says, "You going to be able to pay these?" He says, came back. He was white. That was it. The father was scared the daylights out of it. He said, "Are you going to be able to pay these bills? What are you doing? What are you doing going on by that?" No.
Yes, he didn't marry
They
him.
didn't marry him. Huh? I think I have to ask my brother, but I think the father scared the daylights out of him. I think he did. I think he scared him up. Anyway, the point is like this: when the brother is doing business, the other brothers, he shouldn't have taken the money, but if he takes it, it's okay. Why? Because it's to the benefit of the younger brothers. He's managing the estate, and he looks good, and he manages the estate. And he manages the estate. That's the reason. Okay, but we said but if he's not doing business, then he's not. Then he can't get it. He can't take the money. He said it's obvious. The says the Mao detain. You might have thought that even when he's not doing business, even then, it's still, at least after the fact, it's pleasant for the younger children to haven't dressed well. The lonely novel, they don't want them to look disgusting. Okay, they're going around naked, etc. Mashmallah tells me what, then no. If he's not doing business, he doesn't have a right to the money even after the fact. You have to remember, and even though children are obligated to honor the older brother, it's not worse than honoring the parents. When you honor the parents, the bill goes to the parent, not to you. Honoring your parents doesn't mean you pay. If you have to clothe the parents, etc., you do it with the parents' money. The mitzvah of honoring your parents is mishalav. It's with the parents' money. Now, if they don't have money, that's another story. Of course, I'm obviously going to help your parents. But the mitzvah is to put the jacket on. You have to buy it. They have to buy the jacket. You put it on. They say, but you don't have to pay for the jacket. If you pay, God forbid, your parents, anybody doesn't have money, you're going to help. That's another story. But the mitzvah of honoring the parents is with the parents' money. So over here also, just like he wasn't obligated to pay the money to honor his father, they're not obligated to pay the money to honor their older brother. If he's not doing business, there's no reason why he has to get nice clothing. Okay. Nasar Dolim, okay, Isar Tanim. And then we said what? We said if the older kids took money to get married, which they shouldn't have, okay. And the young kids can also get from the undivided estate, they get the money to get married. My comment, what's it saying? Okay, is it say, okay, what do we mean to say? Because on the one hand, you just told me what they do, and then you told me what if the older kids got married, we don't listen to the young kids to get money. So what's the law? Do they get the money back or don't? The answer is, Rabbi Yehuda, this we said, we explained it already, but the Gemara first is understanding it now. If the older kids got married after the father died, and it's just like the old kids took from the undivided estate, so the young kids have a right to take money to get married from the undivided estate. If the older kids got married after the father died, the young kids can get married from the estate after the father died. This is what we explained it this way. But if the big ones got married from the father's money while the father was alive, and then after the father died, the little kids say to them, we want to get married from the estate, the same way you got married from the father's money. And some of them, when they listen to them, whatever the father gave his lifetime, he gave, it's none of your business. You can't try and claw back lifetime gifts back into the estate and demand a division. Okay, now you told me that if he left big girls and small girls. Now, Shalach le Abua Bar Geniva sent a message to him. And Amdena Rabbeinu teach us, Lavsa v'achla. Let's say a woman, this is now a real while, and we're actually not going to solve this problem. Lavsa v'achla. A woman borrowed money, okay, and used it. And she used it up. Even if she didn't make it, she borrowed money. Okay. Okay. And then she went and got married, and her property goes to her husband. She gave the money to the husband as nichse moled, which means what? Which means that it's her property, but the husband has a right to get the usufruct. Okay. But if she dies, he inherits it, obviously. Okay. Baal, so now we don't know what's going to happen. Does the creditor have right to get his money back from the estate from her property, which now is in whose hands?
No,
In the husband's hands. In the husband's hands. Now, what's the problem? I'm going to explain in 1 second. Baal lokeh habe. Do I say the husband? And we're going to assume that a husband, both in the lifetime of his wife and also when she dies and he inherits, he has the same status. Do we say lokeh habe? He's like a person who bought the property from the woman. Or yoresh habe. Or do I say what? He's like a what? An inheritor. Lokeh habe. Do I say what? That he's a buyer. Humilba al peh ain't a government. So you have a rule: any loan that was not written on a paper, you can't claw back that loan from the property that the debtor sold. Why? Because nobody who buys it would have known about the loan. You can't do it. So what if this was a verbal loan to the woman? If we say the husband is a buyer, so that then the property he has is not responsible for that loan. Oh, Dilma, perhaps I say Yoresh Abi. No, he's gonna, he's when she dies, he's gonna inherit her. So also when she's alive, he's like an inheritor. And if that's true, even a verbal loan, okay, we can take back from inheritors. Why? I usually for a verbal loan, you can't take back from a buyer. Why can you take from inheritors? Because nobody will lend money. Nobody will lend money. Nobody's gonna lend money. Okay, and therefore you can. So now we don't know. So is the husband, even whether he inherits or not, is the husband considered an inheritor? Or is he essentially really what? He's really a buyer. Okay, and the husband's inheritance itself is a machlokas, whether it's from the Torah or only rabbinic. And if you remember, if you remember when we derived it, it wasn't so obvious to derive that the husband inherits. Okay, now Amarle. Okay, so you had a machlok. Okay, Amarle. So Rava said to him, Tanina, we learned it. I'll solve the problem. Nisug dos yisug tanik. He said if the big girls took money from the state to marry, the little girls can take it. My love, isn't it means this? Nisug dolos labal. Okay, and if the big girls married a husband from the estate, Yisug tanus mibal, then the little girls can get married from the husband's money. So you see what? They're considering. So they're considering it what? Clearly, the husband's possession of the wife's possession is really what as an inheritor. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to get the money. Okay. So okay. So the Gemara says, no, you're making a mistake. Nisuk dos libal means if the big girls married a husband, Nisuk tanas libal. The younger ones can get married to a husband, but what? But where do they get the money from? Only from the estate. Okay, and they can't get it from him. So we see we don't look at the husband as an inheritor. We can't prove it. Ini, is that really true? Is that really what it means? Didn't Rabbi Chia learn explicitly that what he taught us is that this way, if the big ones married a husband, the young ones can get married from that husband. So you see what? You do look at him as an inheritor. Okay, and so the Gemara says, nah, he says that still doesn't prove it. Even if you learn that the young ones even if you forget about if you learn that they can't get it from the husband, even if you learn they can get it from the husband, it still doesn't prove that the husband is an inheritor. The Bashani Parnosa, maybe the supporting of the young daughters to get married, the Islay Kala, this is something that is something that makes a noise, and therefore what? Pardon me, when people get married, when girls get married, when people get married, there's a noise, and everybody knows, and therefore what? So it's like the loan that they got was really what? Was really with the paper, because things that the whole point of a paper is everybody hears about it. So this getting married, everybody hears about it. So as if the loan was what? With a paper, and therefore what? And therefore you can collect it from the husband, because even if he is an inheritor, in this case, pardon me, sorry, I said wrong. So even don't tell me that the reason they collect is because he's an inheritor. It's quite possible that he's a buyer, and even though he's a buyer, you still can collect it. Why? And even though there was no paper, because getting married is like having a paper. So with a paper, you can get it from buyers. So he didn't prove the point. Amarle Rav Papa Rabbi, he said, look, you tried to prove that he was an inheritor. Lav Hainu said, we could have proved it from another place, didn't we? Lav Hainu isn't what we learned. The Shalach Rabbi Bagarta, Rabbi sent a letter, and he said the following: you're going to learn the law from him. A guy died, and he left a widow okay, and a daughter. The widow has a right to be supported from the estate until she gets a ksuva, or or they give it, etc., or marries. Okay, and the daughter, remember, has a right to be supported. And part of the man's obligation to his wife is that he supports his daughters will get from the estate until they grow up or get married. So the one of the rules of ksuva say his widow, she has a right to be supported. She has a right to be supported from the estate, and that we know. Okay, why? Because that's what it says. He says you're gonna sit in my house as long as you're a widow. You can sit in my house and be supported. Okay, and so that she gets and Mesa. And let's say what, but let's say the other way. Let's say the woman died and the husband inherited her. Rabbi Yehuda ben Achosa, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Chanina, they learn. This case happened to me, but when the rabbi said, "Almanes nizones mi nechasa." Pardon me. If the daughter died. Right. The daughter died. I'm sorry, just give me 1 second, please. I skipped the part. I'm sorry. Let me just start again. I really apologize. It's my fault. I only have a popular rabbi. He says, "Lab hainu d'shalach ve'avina bagarta." Didn't we learn this? I want to show you that the husband is an inheritor. Misha meisvi nechamanu bas. A guy died and he left a widow and he left a daughter. Okay. Now who's getting the inheritance? The daughter. The widow gets supported because that's what it says in the ksuva. Nise sabas. Okay, now let's say that daughter, who's the one who inherited the money, got married. Okay, so now what happens? Amanaso. Okay, nizonos minachazov. So the widow can still be supported from what? From the husband's estate, which the girl gave him by marrying him. So you see what clearly? You see clearly what? So if she's getting supported from the husband's property that he got by dint of marrying the daughter, you see that he is what? That he is an inheritor and not a buyer. Okay, Mesa Abbas. Okay, let's say the girl died and the husband completely inherited. I'm a Rabbi Yehuda ben Achoso, Rabbi Yossi, I said there was such a case by me. But when the rabbi said, "Almana so nizonos minachazov," the almana is also gets supported from his inheritance. Okay, if you say what he's an inheritor, so it makes sense that she is supported from the estate of the husband. And also that's why she gets supported. But if you say that he's a buyer, why is she supported from his possessions? He's a buyer. She shouldn't get supported. Okay. Amar Abai says. Look at that. So he says we could have got it from there. The Gemara again tries to prove the point. Amar Abai, Ilav the Shalach Rabin Anan Yedin said, "What do you need, Rabin?" He said, "We wouldn't have known it without that. We would have known it from a Mishnah. We would have known anyway that he's like an inheritor." Batanam, we learned Elaine Chain Chosrin B'Yovel. You know, if you buy a property in Eretz Yisrael, you're really only renting it until Yovel, and Yovel goes back to the familiar inheritance. He said, but certain parts don't go back. Bechora, a double portion. If the guy's the firstborn, he got a double portion in the land in the inheritance of the father. We don't say, oh, the extra part that he got, he's a buyer, and it goes back to the other brothers, and when the 50th year comes. By Yoresh Shishon, and also if a person inherits from his wife, okay, it doesn't go back to her inheritors after she died. So you see what? So you see clearly that what? So do you see what? That he's always considered to be what? He's an inheritor, because if he was a buyer, it would have had to go back. So he proved it. Amalei said to Rabbas, he said to him, no. He says, Hashta, he says, the Shalach Miyadin. He said, what do you mean? He says, and even after what Rabbi said, we still don't know. Okay, we still don't know the truth that he's a Yoresh. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Chanina, didn't we learn Be'usha, Iskino, and Husha, one of the places where the Sanhedrin was exiled, they made a rule. If a woman sold her plucking properties in the lifetime of the husband, she came into the marriage. The husband has the right to the use of fruct, and the land is hers. If he dies or she divorces her, she gets it back whatever it's worth at that time. Okay, but she sold it while he's alive, and the point is what? So the buyer will get it when the husband dies, and if she dies first, the buyer won't get anything. Umesa, but she does, and she died first. So what? So now the buyer loses it. About motzi malakukos. So anybody who bought it, the husband says, "Listen, I'm sorry, you don't have it. I have it. It says motzi, but he's not taking it. It's his." Okay, and therefore what? And since you see what you see, well, how did he get it back? Because it's like he bought it before she sold it. He can't have been an inheritor before she sold it, and therefore what? It must be what? So because inheritors cannot get back things that the father sold in a lifetime. So it must be he's a buyer and not an inheritor. Rav Ashi, he says no. He says you make a mistake. He says you really don't know anything from the relation of the husband. Baal Shivura Banan, the rabbis. How are we going to look at it's up to the rabbis. The rabbis sometimes consider him like an inheritor, and sometimes consider him like a buyer. Whatever's to his benefit, and here's the simple rule: whatever's to his benefit, as long as it doesn't hurt somebody else, he gets either position as inheritor or the buyer. But we're not going to consider him a buyer when it hurts somebody else. They do everything that's good for him. Therefore, what? Lagabe, okay, Yovel, when it came to the 50th year, where if you look at him, if you look at him as an inheritor, he's going to win and he's not going to lose. The rabbis looked at him as an inheritor. If you assume that that's the law of the Torah, they left it there. We should say the day, okay, so you shouldn't lose out. But in the case of Yoshi ben Chanina, where the woman sold her plucking property in the lifetime of the husband, then the rabbis made him like a buyer. Why? Because that's going to protect him. That when she sold it, he'll get it and he won't lose it. We should say the day again that he shouldn't lose it. Lagabi de Ravin, but the case of Ravin, where the girl is going to get, we're going to allow the widow to take from the property of the husband, and you're looking at him as an inheritor rather than as a buyer. Why? That's not his benefit. You should say the damana, because there it's going to hurt the widow. So she's going to lose, even when he's going to lose. But we're not going to let him. We're not going to protect him to the loss of someone else. She's going to lose her support. We don't do it. They look at him as a yoresh, even though that's not going to be to his benefit. I says 1 second, but you told me what? You want to tell me that they always make him, as long as he's not hurting anybody else, we make him an inheritor when it's to his benefit? Well, when it's a case of what? Where the woman sold her plucking property in the lifetime of the husband, where now when you're going to allow him to be a buyer and you're going to hurt the people who bought it. Why did they make him a buyer to the detriment of the buyers? He says, no, he says, I'll tell you why. You're right. We can't make him a buyer to hurt other people, but here he can. Why? He says, well, because he's not hurting them. They cause the loss to themselves. Okay, why? When the husband's alive, nobody should go out buying properties from the wife. Okay, you shouldn't be buying properties from a wife who's under the marriage of her husband. Okay, because since the husband is set up to inherit from her, you shouldn't be buying properties to the detriment of the husband. Okay, now we have one more piece. Okay, Misha Mace. Okay, a guy died and he didn't leave any will. He didn't make any provisions. So the Torah takes over, and the Torah it goes. He left sons who want us. Okay, and he left boys. Okay, and girls who are minor girls who are unmarried. So as you know, they have a right to be supported from the estate. There's much in a chassid move. I thought this is what you were referring to earlier. So when there's plenty of money around, there's enough for everybody. Habanim Yershu, so the boys get their inheritance as they're supposed to. Habanim Yazuna, and it's fine. And from the possessions that they have, they can have their daily support. Okay, and also eventually getting what they have to get married with, because that was the law. But let's say the estate is small and there's not enough there for the boys and the girls. Abanas Yehuda, so then the girls get supported. But and the boys can go begging. Tough luck. The girls get supported. Adman said, "What are you talking about? Because I'm a boy. Because I'm male, I lose. That's ridiculous." He says, "There's no such thing." He says, well, "Therefore, what?" He says, the boys get the inheritance and you support them equally. That's all. What are you going to do? You don't give all the money to the girls to the detriment of the boys. That's what he held. Amar Rabban Gamliel, Rabbi Gamliel said, "Rod Yestevi Admon," and I see that the justice is with the words of Admon. So you shouldn't cut out the boys; they should do it together. But the first opinion holds one. When there's plenty of money around, you support the girls, okay, and the boys. Everything's fine. The boys get the inheritance. But when there's a little bit of money around, the boys can go begging, and the girls get all the money to be supported. So the Gemara says, "V'kama marubin." What's a lot of money? You always have to ask whenever we use a word that's not defined. So how much money? How much money is that? What's a lot of money? Okay, so Amar Yehuda Maravi says, "Kadesh yazuna me'am ela ve'ela." Okay, if there's enough money to support the boys and the girls for 1 year, okay, well, it'll be that's enough. That's fine. We'll worry about it later. That's enough. That is enough that the boys get the inheritance. There's enough to support them both. It's fine. And we don't disenfranchise the boys. Kamisi Kamei the Shmuel, when I said this answer in front of Shmuel Amr, he said what? He says Zu Divir Gamliel by Rebbe. This is Gamliel by Rebbe. So arguing about the same Rabbi Gamliel of our Gemara, not how Chachamim, but the rabbis disagree. 1 year is not it. It's Kedei Shiazunu Mem Elu ve'Elu. It has to be enough that they're able to be supported until they mature, until they grow up. Boys 13, the girls 12. Okay, there has to be enough money to support everybody till they mature. If there's not, the money goes to the girls. Itmar, he says Nami. Akiyatu Rav also learned like that when Abin came from Eretz Yisrael to Babel. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, he said near Rabbi Yochanan, Amri law. Rabbi Bar Bachana Rabbi Yochanan. Some people say Rabbi Bachana Rabbi Yochanan. Kol Shizonamem Elu Ad Shivguru. Has to be right. There's enough to support the boys and the girls till they mature. Hamru, that's called a lot. But if it's less than that amount of money, that's called a little bit of money. The girls get the money to be supported, and the boys can go begging. Mar said, "What are you talking about? 1 second. Wait a second. Look at the numbers over here for a second. You told me enough to support them both till they mature. Okay, let's say there's not enough. How much not enough? Are you missing $100, $50, $20? Understand? There's not. So maybe there's not enough for the boys and for the girls, but maybe it's almost enough for the boys, but not enough, not quite enough. So they should lose the whole. Everything goes goodbye, Charlie. Goodbye, Charlie. He says, if there's not enough to support them both until they do it. Shaklu Bana, they get the whole estate. Why? He says they have to go begging. Okay, why should they go begging? Okay, there's still more than you need to support the girls. So why are the boys disenfranchised? He said, you subtract the amount that you need to support the girls. You take them and make it accounting until they mature. And you're right, of course, all the rest goes to the boys for missing $20. The boys are not going to be disenfranchised. Let's say it costs the same amount for the boys and the girls. Yeah, so you have 50 for the girls, and you have only 48 for the boys. Therefore, you lost the 48. No, you take the 50 out for the girls, you give the boys the 48.
We do say it's a bigger pusher for the girls to be begging.
Yeah. The girls will be taken advantage of in the streets. You can't do it. We got to protect them. Okay, Rabbi said that's a daf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah.
So tomorrow we'll come begging for more.
Yeah, I'm a little off my mark today. Don't worry, we'll get back. It's a show. All right.
Thank you.
Well, that's
I
gonna
was
be.
thinking about today in the Torah reading.
Yeah.
The question is, what is the shorish? N I and nun. Is that right?
Yeah.
And what does that normally mean?
The lean to be supported.
Normally, the verb by itself means to lean against something.
I think so. Let's take a look.
Okay. But the good news for you is, if you spell the word backwards, you get the word nosh. So when you're against a tree, you should have a nosh.
Give me 1 second. Let me look at